Captain, the ship's boy is very worried and very upset about the quarantine they enforced on us at the port. Can you speak to him? What are you afraid of, boy? Don't you have enough food? Don't you sleep enough? That's not the problem, Captain. I cannot stand not being allowed to disembark, to hug my loved ones. And had they allowed you to disembark while you were contagious, wouldn't you feel guilty if you were to infect someone not strong enough to fight the illness? I would never forgive myself for that, although I'm convinced that this plague is nothing but made-up nonsense. It could be, but what if that weren't the case? I understand what you say, Captain, but I feel deprived of my freedom. I feel like something has been taken from me. Then you should deprive yourself of even more things, boy. Are you joking? Not at all. If you let something be taken from you without responding appropriately, then you have lost. So, you think that if something is taken from me, I can only win if I willingly deprive myself of something else? Absolutely. I did exactly that during the quarantine of 7 years ago. And what did you deprive yourself of? I was confined on the ship for more than 20 days. I had been waiting for months for the moment I would disembark and enjoy springtime on land. But an epidemic broke out. At Port April, we were forbidden to disembark. The first days were terrible. I felt exactly like you're feeling now. Then I started to respond to those restrictions without applying my logic. I knew that it takes 21 days for a behavior to become a habit. So, instead of complaining and creating terrible habits, I began to behave differently from anyone else. First, to get into the correct mindset, I started to think about those whom, every day of their miserable life, have to put up with many deprivations. Then, I set myself about winning. I started with food. I pushed myself to only eat half the food I would normally eat, and then to select more digestible foods, to avoid overloading my body. I then turned to foods that, according to tradition, keep men in good health. The following step was cleansing my mind of any unhealthy thoughts, and aiming at only having higher and nobler ones instead. I pushed myself to read at least 1 page a day from a book on a subject I didn't know anything about, and to exercise on the deck at sunrise, every day. An old Indian man once told me that you can make your body stronger by holding your breath in. So, I started to do deep breathing exercises every morning. My lungs had never reached such a capacity before. The evening was the time for prayer, to thank some supreme entity for sparing me from a lifetime of severe deprivations. The same old man, years before, suggested me to make a habit of imagining a light entering me and making me stronger. It would also benefit my loved ones, whom I was being kept apart from. So, I practiced this technique every day. Instead of thinking about what I could not do, I focused on what I would have done once disembarked. I would contemplate these scenes every day. I was living them intensely and enjoying the wait. Anything you can have immediately is never interesting. It is the wait that sublimates desire, that makes it more powerful. I deprived myself of succulent foods, of many bottles of rum, of blasphemy and swear words to impress the crew with. I deprived myself of playing cards, of sleeping a lot, of lazing around, of focusing only on what I was depriving myself of. And how did it end, Captain? I did acquire all those new habits, boy. I was only allowed to disembark much later than what they initially said. You were also deprived of your spring, then? Yes, boy. That year, I was deprived of my spring, and of so many more things. But I did blossom all the same. Spring had blossomed inside of me, and nobody could ever steal it from me anymore.